Thank you for coming today, Professor Bob. I really appreciate it. It is my pleasure. Today, I will be observing you and giving you some advice on how to implement the brain-based teaching strategies into your classroom. Well, Dr. Bob, now that you've seen my class, do you have any good suggestions for me? Ah, yes, I have several good suggestions. But first, I would like to discuss the 4 basic elements of brain-based learning, which are approach, priming, novelty, and motivational strategies. I noticed that in the beginning of class, you handed out a nice pamphlet containing step-by-step procedures for the mathematical processes that you discussed in today's lesson. This is a good example of approach, the first element in brain-based learning. Step-by-step procedures are a good way to appeal to the left brain dominant learner, which is more logical in nature. Also, I would like to suggest to you that you provide for your students, in addition to the pamphlet, colorful posters which help to illustrate the mathematical procedures that you are discussing, and in this way, you can also appeal to the right brain dominant learner. When used in conjunction, I believe that you will find optimal learning conditions are taking place. Now let's talk about the second part of brain-based learning, which is known as priming. Priming attempts to connect with the learner previous knowledge with new information that is to be given. I noticed that in the beginning of your class, you started with a brief review which contained information from yesterday's lesson. This is a good example of priming. However, I would like to suggest to you that in addition to the review, that you hold a short question and answer session with the learners, which involves helping them with the previous night's homework. This will help to prepare their brains for today's lesson. Wow, Dr. Bob, this is some really great information. I'm glad you came today. Now let's talk about the third part of brain-based learning, which is referred to as novelty. Novelty is important because it attempts to create an environment which is dynamic and multisensory in nature. As you know, sometimes teaching math can be referred to as boring. However, if you try to maintain a classroom environment which is frequently full of change and is dynamic in nature, you will find that your learners are more engaged and happier to be learning. And finally, we come to the fourth part of brain-based learning, and my favorite, motivational strategies. Motivational strategies is an area in brain-based learning which can be fun for both the instructor as well as the learners. When discussing motivational strategies, it is important to utilize positive emotions and help the learner to feel safe when making the mistakes during the learning process. A healthy understanding of how emotions work during the learning process is an important element when implementing these brain-based strategies and making them effective. I would like to suggest that you use some form of games or maybe competitions during your lessons. I think that games and competitions can help the learner become more engaged and have more fun while the learning process is taking place. Wow, that's a great idea, Dr. Bob. In fact, just the other day, I was thinking, how can I incorporate games into my classroom? I have a Nerf basketball and basketball net here in the classroom, and I was thinking that if I divided the class up into 2 teams, I could then put a problem up on the board. One member from each team could approach the board and have a race to complete the math problem. Whichever student finished the math problem correctly in the shortest period of time would get to take a basketball shot. Any student which makes 3 baskets in a row would get to pick a prize from my prize box. Ah, an excellent idea. I think this might go very well in helping to motivate your students. Well, Dr. Bob, do you have any final suggestions for me before you leave today? Ah, yes, in fact I do. I have a perfect example of how to employ music into your lesson plan. And it goes a little something like this. My name is Dr. Bob, and I'm here to say that brain-based theories are the only way to go today. If you want to teach a class and teach it right, then brain-based theories which are good, you must memorize. First, you teach to the left side of the brain. Then you teach to the right side of the brain. When you want to put your students to the test, with brain-based methods, they always work the best. Brain-based